All right, there we go. Now I am. All right. Just give me 1 second here. Just got to share it out. That's the only thing that really is kind of lame about Facebook Live is that you can't pre-share, which is whack because you know it doesn't matter how professional your stream is, you still have to start and be like, okay, give me a minute here, unless you have like somebody else behind the scenes, but. And 1 second. I'm going to share this out to a Scythe group. Since that's what we're working on. Bam-lama. Alright. Okay, well, happy Friday. Made it to the end of the week. This part should be pretty easy. We'll be able to knock out a lot of stuff on them. So they're already primed with Vallejo Ghost Gray. I mean, it looks white, but it's called gray. Brush on primer. And that's just to make sure. And what's funny is it's kind of like I'm double priming them. Whoop. And obviously forgot the glow. It's kind of like they're being double primed, but really the idea, at least with the gray, if you've never seen it in the other streams, the gray allows me to do direct washes sometimes with color, and it accepts the tone really well, so that it's not that it saves time, it's just that it, well, I mean, I guess it does save time, but it's just a lot more useful. Then let's say if you did black wash or whatever, and since it is a nice neutral color, you can apply a light color on top, you can apply a dark color on top, it doesn't really matter what you're doing. Because obviously if you prime your miniatures white and you miss something, there's going to be a white mark there, whatever, wherever you missed. If you prime them black, then it helps cover that up. With a dark, deep gray like I use, as long as you're using washes like I always do, then it's nice and simple. The thing about these heroes, there's not a lot of detail in the actual miniatures. What's funny is there's more detail in the actual mechs. So with these, it is kind of tricky to make them look good. So there's more kind of like, there's a bigger dependency upon how you're going to be doing your highlights, where you're layering your colors. And you can see these are still really bent in certain places, but after they're painted and varnished, I hit them with some really hot water. If any of your miniatures are bent, pretty much just turn your tap on as hot as it goes. Mine almost goes to boiling at my place, but as long as you hit them with super hot water, it'll activate that plastic, it'll loosen it up, and then you can straighten it out, flip it to cold water really quick, and it will reset the plastic wherever you've put it. So that's how you straighten out your miniatures, but I always do it after I've painted them just because it doesn't mess up the paint job at all. But like I was saying, since there's not a lot of detail on these, the paint jobs happen really fast at first, so like, you'll be able to do all the base colors, and then you hit them all with a wash or whatever. They start to look a little bit better, and then that's when you got to take your time, go through and make sure you're layering those highlights in correctly. That's how I did it last time, at least. You can check my page to see the last Scythe hero commission that I did to see, what these are going to look like if you want to skip ahead through time here. But we only have, 2 more of these left to prime. One of them is already drying, so we'll be able to move on here relatively quickly. Yesterday, of course, I finished the Massive Darkness heroes, so you can check those out on the page. I also got the last daily streams re-uploaded in 1080p, so there's just a little bit more detail on YouTube video on the YouTube version, but if you want the live real deal, that's why you watch it here. So, if you're hanging out, thanks for joining. If you have any questions or anything like that, always feel free to ask. I pretty much will always answer your questions. Unless, you know, they're actually, no. There are only like a couple things I wouldn't answer, and I don't think any of you guys would ask, so. But if this is the first time seeing my page, go ahead and give it a like. Give it a follow. I'm a full-time commission painter, and I stream at least once a day, Monday through Friday, while I'm working. So if you've ever wanted to learn how to paint, do anything like that, definitely a good practical resource since you're able to watch step by step as I do it. There are plenty of good tutorial videos on YouTube and everything as well, don't get me wrong, but there is still a little bit of movie magic involved. So again, what I'm doing right now, I'm just doing this base color and this deep taupe. And then once that is finished, we will move on to our first colors. Painting the tiger is actually pretty fun. Just involves a couple series of washes and then direct highlights, and then you paint the stripes on. First time I did it, I was nervous though. You don't really paint tigers too often, but it was pretty easy. So in this stage, no precision needed. We're just slapping this paint all over the place. What's nice about this color too, you can apply it relatively thick, and then as it dries, it constricts. So it brings all that detail back out as it dries. Alright, there's that. And here's the last one we're doing. You can see I tested some washes on it. Made some washes earlier this week. So the wolf is actually super easy to paint itself. All we have to do after this color's on here is put a Vallejo Game Color black wash on it, and it will barely show that gray undercolor, and it'll give us immediate highlights to make it look like a black wolf. Probably one of the easiest animals to paint besides the eagle. Really, none of these are hard if you're a beginner painter. You just have to have the right understanding of what you're doing and the right materials. Alright. Random hair on it right there. Okay. Via my cat, I'm sure. Alright, he's good to go. These are also going to get the textured bases and everything. Alright, so the first ones, I primed a couple right before the stream started, so we didn't have to wait too much. And it's not, Give me 1 second here. It says there's a comment, but it's not showing me the comment. So I'm a little confused. Normally I see all those. Yeah, I don't know why it's not showing me this comment here. Hold on 1 second, sorry. There we go. Very weird. What's up, Juan? Not sure why I didn't show that. Very strange. I wonder if I switch to me instead of this. Sorry. Facebook streaming is still pretty new. They don't enable all of the features to every page out there, but... Alright, I guess I'll just leave it on this view. That is fine. I'm gonna turn the quality down on it. Alright. Alright, so let's see who's dry here. So we have the bear is almost there. Eagle lady here almost done. Or hawk, whatever. I do remember the colors that I used. So it should be pretty quick. Pretty quick, pretty fast. Obviously waiting for stuff to dry. And I think I'll cheat a little bit here and I'll pull out the table fan. So I'm gonna let these hit this fan for a minute or two. And then as soon as they're done, we'll knock it out. So let me move this back. Last night, I started work again on this guy. Let me make sure I'm in focus here. Lighting is not the best. I don't know what's going on with that. Just did a couple washes on his armor, so you can kind of see there's like a red undertone going on. The only other update since I showed him on stream, I did his base, so you can see I did the corkboard base, added some foliage to it. So eventually he'll be done and I'll just throw him up for sale since I don't need him. Alright, so let's see how this stuff is drying. It looks to be going pretty well. That is part of painting miniatures, is also dealing with them drying, so... Alright, so let me pull these images up again so I know what exactly we're doing. To be more precise here, you can follow me on Instagram as well, at Mini Painting Studio, if you are so inclined. Alright, so here are the Scythe heroes. So I'm just double checking my color schemes here, so it looks like the bear, okay. These guys are really easy to paint the second time around. Anytime you paint something, like, anytime you physically paint a sculpt for the first time, it always takes longer. But the second time you do it, 5th time you do it, 10th time you do it, there's no comparison. It's super easy. So, but alright, we are going to be moving on after this dries here. I think we're looking good. Yeah. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and move on. Readjust my camera here. So the first easy thing we can do is some of these clothes. So I'm going to do everything that is going to be using this black Vallejo game ink. What's nice about this ink is that it's heavily pigmented, but it doesn't completely remove all detail. Actually, let me double check on her. Okay, so she is all black, alright. And she was not all the way dry, so not the best result on the back there. It's alright. And again, this isn't an actual black paint, this is an ink. So as it dries, it will pool according to gravity, so it'll give you a little bit of a shading detail effect. And then I can go in with a super low light highlight. Anytime you use an ink on something that's not dry, you just want to make sure you don't touch it. And then it will settle and dry correctly, but if you keep messing with it, it kind of like mixes together and causes some problems. So you won't be able to see right now on stream just because of the reflection, but after it dries, you'll be able to tell that we do have some detail coming through. And then anything else that doesn't have enough of the black, obviously, we can just go back over. It's not a big deal. But for her, that's literally all you have to do. Assuming you want to paint her like the artwork, right? So she's wearing all black. Assuming. Alright, let's check out this guy. He looks pretty dry, so we'll ink him as well. Of course, he looks dry, and all of a sudden he's not. Alright, so I need to get more of that ink out here. This dries, I know it looks really shiny right now, but it dries completely matte as well. Let me move this closer. But yeah, it dries completely flat, so it's not going to look shiny. What's wrong, YouTube? You don't want to play music? So he's already starting to dry, and you can see those underlying details coming through. Let's check her out. She's slowly drying as well. Anytime you use black, it's going to look really shiny until it's dry. So there we go. So the wolf also needs to be inked, but he looks a little wet. Let me check. I guess not. Yeah, not really. Alright, so we'll ink him real quick too. So just applying this black ink wash to give us the details to show through underneath. Then we can go back in. We can either dry brush or do like spot highlights, which is probably what I'll do with the dark gray. Need a little bit more ink on there. You use quite a bit of it whenever you let it pool up. If you're just now joining, thanks for hanging out today. I'm just working on the heroes of the Scythe commission that I have right now. If you are looking to have anything painted, always feel free to hit me up. I can paint your stuff for you relatively quick, relatively cheap. If you want to see what these will look like finished, check the albums on my page, Mini Painting Studio, and you can check the last hero commission I did. You can also see the mechs that I recently finished for this job. If you're interested in painting yourself, just like and follow my page, and you'll see my painting streams. You can always ask me questions if you want. You'll probably pick up some tips along the way, I would hope. I stream usually at least once a day, mostly twice a day. Today is probably just going to be a once a day situation because I have to go mail out some stuff later. But I figured I'd stream this morning while I start this work. These will probably be finished on Monday. I usually only stream Monday through Friday, but if I work this weekend, I might stream it as well. I don't know, we'll see. So the wolf is still pretty wet underneath, but I'm just mixing it to make it a dark gray because no one will be able to see it anyway. But we'll know. And I don't want to touch that area because I know it's wet. But we're trying to be pretty quick here, so. Alright, and I'll just let that sit. So everything else is drying. Let's check her. Still drying, but really subtle detail. Alright, so the next thing we can do is probably start all the bags. All the bags I do a raw sienna color, so that's really simple. And then you just go through and ink them all. Just gotta still add some of that black on the brush. Right now we're just literally doing the bags instead of the straps. We'll go back and finish the straps. Whoops, and I just put my finger all over that. It's alright. At this stage, you can be pretty sloppy. Because everything else is going to get painted after it, so you don't have to worry too much. Sorry, I keep knocking the camera there. You can tell I wear the glove, just so if I have too much paint on the tip of the brush, I'll just wipe it off real quick. That's all that's for. So we're doing the base color here for all the bags and satchels and stuff. And then once that's finished, we go back through and ink it, and that's where all the detail will come in. And then the only step after that is you just go back over a tad bit with the base color, and then it's finished. For my tabletop level stuff, that's pretty much how it all gets done. And then the monkeys bags. And we're not worrying about straps or anything. Straps are going to be done after whatever the color they're sitting on top of is done. So we're just worried about the actual physical bags and stuff. You just have to think about it in terms of like the stages you're going to be painting them in. He had a hair on him. He had multiple hairs on him. I don't know what happened there. Probably when I turned the fan on. Should check up on the chat, see if anything's happened. Because I have not been looking. For this one, since the straps are thick, I'll go ahead and do it. Because I can easily avoid those when I go back over it all. Keep hitting the camera. I can tell I put the camera back in a weird position because I keep hitting it with the brush. So I might need to adjust that here in a second too. Alright, let me switch back over here for a second, sorry. Yeah, it's really weird that, someone randomly leave something in the chat, I don't really care, just like comment something, just so I can tell that it's updating, because it showed someone's comment a second ago and then it removed it, so I don't really know if that's my issue or if that's Facebook's issue. If I had to guess, it's Facebook's, because they were having problems yesterday. Drop a hello. Drop a what's up. There we go. Alright, it's working. What's up, Steve? I don't know why it showed one comment and then it removed it. Which is questionable. So we're just doing this easy stuff for this commission. She doesn't have any other bags. And I don't think he has like any. He's got this gun, but that's about it. I say this gun, he has a holster right here. Okay. Alright, so let me check out, see what color I painted the bear. Because we can start all the base coats. Actually, let's do this. So where is that brown? It is right here. I'm looking forward to painting some of the airships that are coming out. I already have one client who's prepaid, so that'll be exciting to do. So the trick for this commission is using different browns on the animals so that they all don't look the same. We're going to be using the same washes on them, but the base color is what makes all the difference in the world. There's another hair on this guy. Yeah, when I used that fan to dry him, it must have messed it up. If you're interested in having your Scythe stuff painted, hit up the Get a Quote. I can tell you exactly how much it is. I have so many people ask me about Scythe that I kind of have it memorized at this point. If you have 5 factions, if you have 7 factions, I can tell you right off the dome, so you can leave me a message. You can use the quote button, you can do whatever you want. And I'll get back to you real quick, because I'll get a notification. Commissions like this usually take me about 3 weeks, 2 weeks. Usually faster, as long as I'm not slammed. Obviously right now these don't look amazing because we haven't done anything with base colors, but you can check out my previous albums on the Facebook page and you can see what they look like finished. You can follow me on Instagram at Mini Painting Studio. Yeah, Cat Sabotage is right. He's asleep right next to me. He's just waiting. Alright, so we're gonna let that dry too. I need to get that sienna back out because I missed a spot. So I've had one brush last me all week this week. That's pretty amazing. At the end of the stream, I'll snap it in half though. Rest in peace. We'll give the brush a proper burial. Let me check my phone real quick. It's been blowing up, as usual in the morning. Let me drink some coffee too real quick. All right, so let's see what we can do. Let's go ahead and base coat the big dude here. Use a darker brown. So just doing this brown will get the same wash as the bag, so it'll be done in one step. Then we'll go back over all the straps with the raw sienna. It's like you're playing chess, you know, you gotta figure out your moves here, so you're not wasting time. Make things easier for you. Alright, hold on, let me fix this damn camera, dude. Oh, I didn't pick up, you're right, Steve, I didn't pick up that one brush I dropped. So no, not including that guy. That one was like brand new, if I remember right. But I mean, it's just underneath my desk. I mean, if there's one little thing in life that I hate, it's dropping something. Because there's nothing more humanizing than dropping something on the floor and having to pick it up. Like, or like falling. If you fall as an adult, you may as well just die. Like, I don't want to ever fall and have to get back up. It's just the most humanizing thing you can do. It's like, wow, I'm such a klutz. Just kill me. And I hit the camera again, so okay, I guess that's just gonna be today's stream, is me hitting the camera. Forgive me. I had a friend text me last night at 2 in the morning telling me to go to a bar right then. I don't think he realizes I was asleep. Very rarely do I get middle of the night text and I wake up to it and I was like, don't you know me? That's not something I'm gonna do. Alright, so the bear, I swear I did the bear a different color, but I don't know if I even have that. Hold on, this is brown iron. Yeah, I think it's this one. Maybe. I actually think I did them in reverse, but it's okay. These are two slightly different dark browns. One's just dark brown, the other one's dark brown iron oxide. For whatever that's for. But you can see this commission's only going to be a 2-day deal. Super fast. As long as you know what colors you're going to be using, what washes you're going to be doing, it's super easy to paint these guys. Or if you don't paint at all and you want me to paint them, like I said, I take commissions, so go ahead and hit me up. All of the month of October, I'm running a 10% off special, so you can get 10% off of your complete quote. Basing, unfortunately, is not included in that, but that's because I just charge you direct material cost. And not for my time, because basing's pretty simple. There are some unfortunate mold lines on the bear, but you can hide them pretty much with the washes and then your highlights. So you can see I'm just going real fast, real loose here, pushing the paint around. No reason to feel like you have to be precise. I mean, you have to be a little precise, but nothing crazy. Just doing the base color here, so just gotta be quick. The nice thing, if you ever have me do a commission for you, you'll know when I'm working on it, because you will watch it, if you're inclined to, obviously. Clients that have used me before, they don't really care. They're just like, yep, I know you're good. Just do it. But if it's your first time ever having something commission painted, it's kind of nice to be able to watch and see exactly what's going on. Alright, that base coat is done, and I think that's the only animal that I use that base color for, so... but let's look at the black that we did earlier. So you can see the subtle highlights. So you can see this isn't a perfect black. Some of the edges are still kind of highlighted. Thanks for hanging out, Steve. Have a good day. Have a good weekend. But later we'll go back over all of that with a little bit of a darker gray. Alright, so let's start inking the bags. For that, let's use... Actually, no, let's use this one. And then a dark tone, wherever that's at. Here it is. So if you're not familiar with painting at all, a lot of shading is done by using washes and inks. And I'll illustrate that for you here. So this bag right here is what we're going to be focusing on. And you can see what it's doing right there is applying the shade. And it does it by using gravity, obviously. And as it dries, it won't be that dark, but it will leave us with those shadows. And then you just go back over the edges and everything, and it looks great. Miniature painting 101 right there. So we're just going through inking bags here. It'd be better if those guys were dry. Go ahead and ink the whole monkey, or wash the whole monkey. On the monkey, it's pretty simple. You just do all of his fur, then go back in over his face with a gray to break it up, and then do the highlights and everything else. But that's the trick with the Scythe heroes. Since they aren't very detailed, they're not as detailed as the mechs, you have to use washes pretty well. Ooh. And remember too, the washes that we're applying dry a lot different. wash the monkey. Washing the monkey does sound a little weird. Maybe if I'd said ink the monkey. But you guys can see the detail that gets thrown onto these pretty immediately. And it's gonna dry way less intense than it looks right now. The washes that I put together, the pigment isn't as strong after it dries. So as long as you're applying it to where you're like, that looks like it's too strong, that's pretty much exactly what you're looking for. Because when it dries, it mellows out quite a bit. So then when you go back in for the highlights on everything, it looks great. But yeah, anytime I do tabletop stuff, and honestly with these miniatures, I suggest tabletop only if I'm going to paint them for you. Because there's only so much you can do with the lack of detail in them. Anytime you do that, you're just going to be doing base colors, then the highlights. Really simple. Alright, who can I do next? Looks like this. We're getting there on him. Yep. Give me 1 second to check my phone. Somebody messaged me. So you can see as it dries here on this bag, nothing's completely dry yet, but you can see it pools and creates shading perfectly for you. If the rest of this stuff was dry, I would hit it with the wash too, but we're moving pretty fast. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the base color for her dress. Oh, excuse that burp there. Jeez, man. Normally when I paint, I try and paint by color. So if something's going to be using red, then I paint all the red on all the miniatures, whatever. The only other miniatures that have red are going to be the 2 characters wearing black. They have a little bit of red highlights or like detail on them, but it's so small. It's not going to save me time to do it now anyway, so it's okay. We'll just be concerned with her dress. Just making sure I get a nice even coat with it, and then, like everything else, we're going to give it a wash, and then bring it back up to highlight, and bring it back up to a even better looking red highlight. Again, if you want to see what these are going to look like finished, you can check, and you can see how bent that gun is. We'll straighten that out as well. If you want to see what these look like finished, just check the album section on my page, and you can see the last set of heroes I did. Obviously, they're not going to be exactly the same, because no two babies are the same, but we're going to keep them pretty exact. At least because I remember and I know what colors I used the last time. Oh. Alright, so her whole sleeve isn't red. I forgot that. My bad, just up to the arm there. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. Pretty much everything in this stage doesn't matter other than laying the colors on that you need there. Alright, so we'll let that dry. Gotta go fast. Not really, but... I can't remember what purple I used on her. Definitely this one. I can't remember if I did that top part or not. Yes, okay. Okay. Purple's always fun to paint. It always looks really good after you put a wash on it. And I have some purple washes we'll use to give it that nice shade. Alright, that's her base color. You can tell these happen pretty fast if you have time to do it. Alright, so it looks like this bear is getting dry. Nope, I lied. He's not ready. It appears, though, that the boar is. This brown dries kind of shiny anyway, so it's always hard to tell when it's ready or it's not ready. So just applying this wash all over him. Pulling out anywhere it's pooling too much. Just wiping the excess off on my thumb there. Now, if I was doing a wash, well, if this was a higher, if this was like hero level or display level, I would be doing a clear coat before I do the wash, because it gives you a little bit smoother transition. But at tabletop level, this works great. Obviously, I do it every single time. But that's really the only difference. The only other method you could use is putting a clear coat before a wash. And by clear coat, I mean actual like gloss coat. Just making sure it hadn't cooled too much anywhere. That's good. You can see on this backpack the effect of the wash as it dries. It gives you that really nice transition. This is actually perfectly dry. So you can see what the effect of washing is and why it's important. Why you want to use it. Gives you the perfect shading. Then all you have to go back in and do is basic highlights. So let's see, the bear isn't dry yet. Let's see if our big boy bison here, big boy bison is still drying. Correct? Maybe. No. I think we can do it. So let's go ahead and just put this wash all over him and hope for the best. I think he's dry. And with this guy, you go back and you do physical highlights, so brush strokes on top of some of the hair. And that way you can kind of control what areas you actually make look highlighted, so you can give them some more definition. Because remember too, like I was saying earlier, the hero miniatures for this game are not actually the best to be painted. There's not a lot of deep detail on them. They look cool, obviously, when they're not painted, just because you can see the reflection on them. They're that shiny plastic, whatever. The mechs are way easier to paint. There's more detail. But with these guys, it's a little bit more of a nuance to get them painted well, show any kind of highlights, etc., etc. At least to the standard that I paint things. So just going through, applying that wash all over him. This one, there are a few different tricks that I do, if I'm remembering right, to make sure he looks real good. Just applying that wash pretty thick so that gravity does the work. Gravity is a painter's best friend. I've seen a few Scythe painting guides. Like there's one on Board Game Geek and a couple others. There's like a PDF or something. And I always think it's really weird that they don't tell you to do basic miniature painting stuff like a wash or using a base color that is going to save you time. But, you know, it's two different worlds. It's not necessarily the miniature painting world if you're interested in painting your own stuff for Scythe. So, alright, so that wash is done. So you can see we're making really rapid progress on everything. Let's go ahead and do his clothes. So what's interesting about doing this guy, I just use a green wash first and then highlight. This one's an actual green ink from Army Painter. You can see what's happening right here, though. Very instant gratification. This is also why I do the deep taupe base color, because if this was white, it would not look nice. It wouldn't have the same tone. If this was black base coat, obviously it wouldn't work. But that deep taupe gives you just enough of a meaty substance underneath, so to speak, that lets you get these washes in nicely. So you can see that's super easy. All I did was apply that. Now obviously the skill part comes in after it dries and you have to go in and reapply highlights and everything, but this at least gives you a really nice base to work on. And I think I did green on her as well, if I'm remembering right. Hold on. I have it open on my phone so I can just look real quick. Yeah. The answer is yes. So even though she's not all green, like I just did her coat, I'm just gonna apply it heavily all over. Because it is a wash, it's gonna dry super thin. We're not gonna lose any detail because of it or anything. We do the guns last. Alright, the bear is dry, so we can go in and do the wash on him as well. So wipe off that green. Actually, I need more of that wash. Hold on. Just realized I didn't get her back. There we go. Let me do a new spot here. There we go. So the goal is to have these halfway finished today so I can finish them Monday. Or I can finish them over the weekend. Either way, if I do choose to work on them over the weekend, I will stream that. I usually only stream Monday through Friday. So that was 6 drops my wash, 4 drops dark tone for those keeping score. And if you really are interested in my recipe for that wash, you gotta pay. No, I mean, I'll tell you, but just send me a message. It's kind of a process, but you can mix it super cheap compared to buying inks, so... So just applying this really thick so that it pools up everywhere. If you're just now joining, we were waiting for the base colors to dry so that we could apply these shade washes. Anytime I do tabletop quality stuff, this is the exact method that I follow every single time. Doesn't matter what I'm painting. Delivers good results. letting gravity do the work here. Pool up underneath all the areas with shadow so that we can go back in with our own highlights, make it look good. Alright, so he is ready to rock and roll as well. Everything else is on its way drying. So what we can do now is do the base coat on the blue guy. And then after I do this blue, I am going to take a quick break because I've been streaming for over an hour. I normally try and take a break every hour, about 5-minute break. This guy will be fun too because he's going to have a snow base. So we get to do the snow texture on it. You can see the wash is already drying on the bison and the bags and everything. Even if you aren't the best painter in the world, you can still do a wash and just leave it. It'll still look pretty nice. But taking it past the wash is kind of the next level. Really the only reason why I'm so fast, I've been doing it for about 15 years, so I have muscle memory built in about how these brushes work, how the paint works, how my hand works, all that nonsense. That's really the only thing that takes time, is getting fast. So alrighty. So that base coat's done. Let's see if there's anything I can show you that's dried. Really nothing all the way yet, so we're gonna go ahead and take our break. I'll be back in about 5. And then after all these washes finish, we might highlight up something. So you can stick around if you'd like to. You can leave. Either way, I will be here streaming through the afternoon. Or at least until about 11. Most likely, maybe 11:30, 45, whatever. But I will be back in about 5 minutes or so. So thanks for hanging out today. I'll be back. All right. And we're back. So let's go ahead and do a wash on the purple. Everything else is still drying pretty much. So just applying this purple wash to give us all of those great details. And then that way after it dries, right, just like everything else, we just go back in, do the highlights. Really simple. Obviously the setback here, if you've never painted before, is you would have to be buying so many different things to do this, but since I do this full time, I have quite the arsenal of tools to use. So just applying it to make sure the gravity distributes it the right way. If there's too much pooling somewhere, I'll pull it out. I'll pull it out. If you use a wet brush with a wash, it'll absorb it kind of like a sponge. So like you can see right here, there's too much of it pulling in a weird direction. So I'm just gonna move my brush up and down to start absorbing it until I'm left with an amount that I think makes sense. There you go. Simple as that. Easy peasy. You can see the monkey is pretty much dry, which will allow us to go in and do all the highlights on the guy. So her red is dry, so we're gonna go in and do a wash on that. For that, I'm gonna mix a Games Workshop wash here. That is red, but it's not very dark, so I'm gonna give it a little bit of love with a dark umber. Nope, that's sepia. We don't want that. Forgot to give it a shake. These are some Vallejo Game Color washes. So mixing Games Workshop with Vallejo here. It's like crossing the streams in Ghostbusters. So the effect here is going to be really subtle, but on her red, that's pretty much all you want. I don't want it to be really, really dark. And if this wash dries and I think that it's too subtle, we'll just go back over it again for a second time. But I think it should give me just enough of a shade. I don't know, let me test it on this arm. Yeah, it should give me what I'm looking for. So we'll let her dry. The thing about doing this commission, whenever you do The Scythe stuff, it's so many washes back to back to back. That's really the only thing that takes time, is literally waiting for the washes. The Tiger takes a little bit of time just because there are some tricks involved in making that look good. So I'm going to go ahead and wash the big pigeon here. The hawk. You can see that detail pops instantly. Looking awesome. The highlights for this, we literally do go in and do every single feather. But the feathers are pretty much as wide as a brush, so even though that sounds like it'd be tedious, it's not difficult. It just takes a little bit of time. And at the end of the day, this whole commission doesn't take a lot of time, so count your blessings. So you can see, just adding detail to all of them there. All of them, all the feathers pop out. And it'll dry nice and subtle, just like everything else we've been doing. Here's a good example of all the washes and what they do. Did this yesterday. So this is just an example. Every arm is painted with a different colored wash, so it kind of gives you an idea how it affects the model whenever you apply an ink, a shade, or a wash. Whichever word you want to use. An ink is pigment that's suspended as an ink, just like anything else. A wash is pigment that's suspended in a floating mixing medium, so it works a little bit different than a wash, or an ink, I should say. So an ink is always going to be really intense color. A wash is going to be less, more subtle color. And then a shade, the best way I could describe a shade would be something that isn't necessarily adding an actual shade, right? But like if you're talking about like film or stage color, a shade is just color. Or no, a tone, yes, right? Am I thinking tone is separate? Yeah, tone is a level of black, shade is when you apply a color, like the film, the gel films or whatever on a light. But that's the idea behind that. Here we can see the purples drying that we applied. When it does dry, we can like highlight that instantly. You can see all these colors are drying nicely. You can check out the bore. All of the detail pops out without much work. And then the work after that, right, is highlighting the animal. You can see his green looks really badass already. Why did I just do that? Dummy, I grabbed the top right here. Oh, I like how that wasn't in frame at all. Sorry about that. Let's review. Here you go. Let me tilt this up. There you go. Now you can see what's going on with him. I didn't realize my camera wasn't pointed the right way. So there you go. So this is a good example of how everything looks once it starts to dry. update on this. So as all of them start to dry, it really mellows out the color. The only one we haven't touched right is the actual tiger, but that's a lot more work. That's probably like a stream in itself. And then the rest of them, really super easy, really super fast. So we can actually start to do the highlights on the bags on some of them, if we are so inclined, just to show you kind of how that works. So we can do this one since he's pretty much dry. So it's really easy. You're just gonna touch up all the edges. Nope, there is a bunch of water loaded in that brush. Whoops. Forgot to push on it. There we go. So we'll let that area dry. I'll do this one instead. So all I'm doing is reapplying color to the edges. And the thing about the raw sienna color that I use all the time, it always looks more intense than it does when it dries. So keep that in mind, because I know it's like, whoa, that's a bright contrast there, but it's going to dry a little bit different. And then do the top. I'm just following the way that the ink dried. So if it looks like there's not a lot of color there, then that's where I'm gonna, or not a lot of the shade tone, then I'm gonna go back in with the brush, push it around a little bit, and get that highlight in there. But so, you can see that's all you have to do. Get a really nice result. Go across the bottom lip. There you go. So just doing all the straps, bags. And you can see the process here too. You just pick a base color, then shade it, then reapply that same base color. And that's how it's done. Thanks for hanging out this morning. Hope you guys are having a good Friday. If you ever need anything painted, hit me up. You can send me a message directly, or you can hit the Get Quote button on the Facebook page. Nice and easy, and this is all dry right here, so you can see the actual finished effect on the bags. Check and see how much more needs to dry on some of these. Go ahead and do this holster. Just doing edge highlights. So you can see really good detail on it. It's super simple. Just gotta have a little patience with the brush. Probably have to go back over these straps, so I'm not gonna worry about doing them right this second. You can see nice transition on that. I always paint this like it's a canteen holder, so the top portion of that is silver. Let's see what else we can knock around here. This guy's all the way dry. So you can see at this point, it's really just good brush control. Going through, knocking around the highlights. Oh man, this brush is struggling. See if I can't wake it up a little bit. Just had some loose hairs on it. Alright, so we're getting to the 2-hour mark here. See if there's anything else we can do here real quick. Let's go ahead and do her highlights on her dress. Obviously she's not all the way dry in the cracks there, but that's not where we're applying this paint, so it shouldn't be too big of an issue. So just like everything else, going through. There's a lot of water on that brush. Whoops. I always do that. I always forget to make sure it's not loaded with water until it starts to overload with water, and then I'm like, oh crap. There's water on that brush. Literally, if you watch every stream, it happens every time. The purple that we're using right now doesn't have a lot of coverage unless you apply it really thick, so I'm just having to go back over those highlights over and over and over and over and over. And then we'll do one more purple for a highlight on it, and it'll look really great. Not bad. Not bad at all. Let me check my phone real quick. Wow, just had my first hater comment. That's amazing. That's amazing. And I replied to him in a really passive-aggressive way, so he'll have fun with that. So you can see the shade that we applied here. Really simple, and then we'll just go back over with that same brown. And then the shade on the actual red, really subtle. But yeah, I think that's pretty good. We're hitting the 2-hour mark right now. So I may stream again this afternoon, maybe not, we'll see. But this commission will be done on Monday for sure. If you're just now watching, you'll be able to see the rest of the stream as soon as it's done. But alright, thanks for hanging out today. And I'll see you next time.